Hello from Gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and you're very welcome to my garden Douentza here in Wexford, where on this beautiful sunny September morning we're going to take a look around the garden and have our September garden tour. So as you can see, it's most distinctly September. And the farmers have been busy in the fields baling up hay for the animals to eat in the winter. It's quite a pretty sight here at the moment on this glorious sunny day. And you know, this kind of sunshine isn't usually representative of September at all, so we're lucky. We'll take it as a gift. But we're not here to talk about the farmers and the fields. We're here to have a look at the garden. So I guess without further ado, what we'll do is we will cross across the road and we will go into Douentza garden, my garden, and have a look around. And we're standing here at the top of the drive, having just come from down below, and I'm just going to move the camera around here so that we can see the familiar arches that are at the beginning of so many garden tour videos. And from here we're going to enter the garden. The quality of the light is really good at the moment, and it's kind of catching on the yellows and greens in the garden and on the grasses. So let's go in here, and through the first arch we'll take a look down this side. As usual, large leaves of Tetrapanax rex and Stipa gigantea. And my gargoyles spitting at each other across the path. Looking really good at the moment over here is this Pennisetum grass. It's such a vision at the moment. We're in slight shadow here, so we've just got one splodge of sunlight there, but it's so wonderful looking and completely tactile, and that'll go on looking great into November. There's definitely a more mellow, relaxed feel about the garden, with the yellows kind of taking predominance and the greens fading somewhat, becoming lighter, I suppose, in colour. There's some strange bird cawing in the background, and we're just looking back through the arch that we came from and up at the trees. And the sky, the blue sky. Always such a gift. At this end of the border, the Nicotiana is an absolute spectacle at the moment. And just look at this multitude of pink and white flowers, and it holds pink and white on the same stem, which is really pretty. I think I mentioned in the last video how this was a gift from the birds. The seed kind of just dropped here because I didn't plant it, but it's a lovely plant. And this is supposedly the hardy Nicotiana, so we'll hope and see if this comes through the winter for me. And just moving up this border, we can see that this red hot poker is coming into bloom. And look, there are the flower spikes, which will soon be bright orange. Now, I absolutely love this Kniphofia. It's my favourite one because of the foliage, and the foliage is just, it's almost like a succulent. Really wonderful stuff. The only drawback is that the tips do get a bit brown, so if you have time you can cut those off, but as you can see I didn't have time this year. There are lots of flower spikes coming. There's one down there and over there, and I think before long we'll have a nice spectacle. Just looking back again at that Nicotiana, you can see how it makes kind of a cloud of little flowers that kind of flutter in the breeze. Really gorgeous. And I'm just noticing that this bush here in front is producing a flower, which I don't ever recall it producing a flower before. But this is a nice one, especially in spring. The leaves really are very interesting. I think almost variegated, although there's no evidence of that here now. And as usual, I'm putting the names of the plants I mentioned up on the screen so that you can, well, if you want to look them up and check out suitability for your own garden, then you certainly can. Okay, I guess we'll head down to this end of the garden. And the trees haven't quite taken up their autumn colour yet. That tree there is a liquidambar, so it will look gorgeous in time. And of course the paulownia will get giant yellow leaves in time, but at the moment it's holding on to the green ones. Saponaria is still looking good, and well, you know, it's taken a bit of a battering, but it's still looking very good. And some of the perennial verbascum that I cut back have come into flower again. So this is the Chiaxi one, and as you can see, it's sending up some more flower spikes. See the others in the background. Smaller than the first ones, but still lovely all the same. Look at the detail in those flowers. The Agapanthus on the right is now in full flower, and a very tall and wonderful spectacle it makes too. And over in that part of the border there, you can see that the dahlias are really singing out. But we'll go over there in a minute. And just panning over this way, I guess what I might do is point out to you the berberis in the background, which has glorious pink growth on all of its new growth, and this is what it looks like. And as you can see on the leaves, it really is a pretty thing with kind of splodges of red and pink. Now the drawback with this one is that it's a prickly customer, so it needs constant trimming to keep it looking neat. It's quite vigorous, so this is one that gets trimmed a couple of times a year, and when you trim it then you cut off all the new growth and the nice colour, but it really doesn't take long to come back again, so I can highly recommend it. And this picture that we see in front of us is of a yucca on the left, the berberis we just mentioned, Viburnum in front, and Quinocloa rubra, a wonderful, wonderful grass. But perhaps what you don't notice is what was behind the Quinocloa rubra until yesterday, and that was a very large dark leaf phormium, and that's been moved to elsewhere in the garden. But I'll show you that in just a little while. You'll have to bide your time. Okay, so having finished over here in this section of the garden, I guess just briefly to mention the Roscoea over there. And the Roscoea I've just had to stake up. This is the first year I've had to stake it up, but I guess the clump has just gone too big, and I've put that little hoop in down there. But it's still looking very fine, and will continue to flower for a long time if I keep deadheading it, because you can see that there are more buds coming here from the central axis at the top of the pseudostems. That's where the buds come from, and there are more coming, so it's all to look forward to. I love the little red hoods at the very top, and the fangs. Did you see its fangs? It has fangs. So we're off to the other side now, the other side of the long border, passing by a whole load of dahlias looking really well at the moment. And this one is called War of the Roses, a chimeric dahlia with unstable genes, which means that the white and red doesn't appear in uniform arrangements on any single flower. It can pop just up as it wants. Anyway, it's an interesting addition to the garden. And of course this is a ball type dahlia, and we'll see some different types as we head around now past various plants that have worked very hard all summer but deserve a bit of a break now, so we won't berate them too much for having faded. And just have a look at this lovely border. This first dahlia is called Pooh and it's a collarette type dahlia, and I'm sure you can look up the proper definition somewhere else, but it means that it has single flowers on the outside and this central point that the insects love. And over from there we have some large decorative dahlias there, as represented with this enormous orange one, which I absolutely love but have no name for. Isn't it gorgeous? And decorative dahlias come in different sizes, of course. They're fully double, and you can't see the central eye point on them. That's one of their defining features. Over here we have Julie One, which is a miscellaneous dahlia, one that doesn't fall into any category, not even the minor categories of orchid dahlia and peony dahlia. This is one out on her own, but she is a beauty. And here are some more dahlias that are looking absolutely amazing at the moment. But before we go into what type they are, I just want to point out this one down here called Blue Bayou. And this is an anemone type dahlia, which has a single lot of petals around the outside, but I guess these kind of funnel-like bits to the centre. And it really is a nice one. Not been grown particularly well this year, but next year it'll do better. Over here we have Alva's regalia, and this is an amazing, almost translucent dahlia. And the colour isn't properly captured by this film, but I just want to say when the sun hits this one, it's one to clamour for, and in fact that's the way it worked for me. I saw it in a garden and I just had to get it as a result of seeing it in situ. Now I wonder, can you tell what type of dahlia this is? It's fully double, and we can't see the central eye point at all. And just to give you a little bit of clarity, or maybe confuse you further, that one over there is not the same type at all. So the one we've just been looking at is a decorative dahlia, like the large orange we saw below, of a smaller size. And the decorative ones come in various sizes, so you can have dinner plate, which I think is even bigger than the orange one we just looked at. And this one is, I guess, medium sized. It's not enormous, but it produces so many flowers and in such a fantastic colour that I absolutely love it. And now we have moved over to Karma Chocolate, which is this gorgeous dahlia with dark leaves. Look at that. That's definitely to be looked out for. And it has, well, it's just got a wonderful form. Now, I have to tell you that decorative dahlias and this particular type are my absolute favourite. And the name for this type of dahlia is water lily type. And I guess if you know water lilies and you can look at it, then you can determine that it is a water lily type. But to me, that form is just perfection, absolute perfection. And just to compare it now, so that's the water lily type, and then this one over here, the Regalias alva, is a decorative type. I suppose the difference is to do with the shape of the flowers, and here in the decorative type they're more tapered and come into a point, whereas they're very rounded in the water lily type. And that is just a sublime, sublime presentation. And I just want to show you one more water lily type, which perhaps may crystallize the definition a bit in your head. This is one called Christine. It's pink, and I don't think water lily types are defined by size, so you don't have dinner plate ones, etc. But yeah, but this is nice, and you can see that the petals are really quite rounded, fully double, and yeah, just gorgeous. And this dahlia here is called Café au lait, and is also a decorative one, and they really get quite large. I just love the smoky interior, kind of browny yellowy centre, and the creamy petals. It's really a gorgeous one. And we'll have a look at some more dahlias and different types of dahlias as we continue around the garden. We haven't covered the different types by any means, but just to finish off here by having a look at the fig tree. and it is producing some nice fruit at the moment. Now this isn't quite ripe, so nearly. It is soft but not completely soft. I am going to have to be careful not to miss it and lose my precious fruit. And just over here we have the sedums coming into flower. Now, as you recall, my sedums need dividing, so they've flopped a big flopping, but they are coming into flower and I look forward to dividing them up more nicely so I can enjoy them elsewhere in the garden. Okay, let's move on and try and find some more nice things looking good in the garden. We've only been down to the lower section so far, and that is my buck's ball area. The tree was removed here last autumn. I need to bring the grass in or put an extra ball in there or something like that. But we're now at the top section of the garden, Stipa gigantea, looking amazing at the moment. And this section here, and right beside me is the drive, and I'm just going to pause now and talk about a couple of the dahlias that are here in this border. And in front of us is an orange dahlia, and this one's a cactus dahlia or perhaps a semi-cactus dahlia, I'm not entirely sure, but it is, I must say, my least favourite of all dahlias, and this is just a personal taste thing. If you love cactus dahlias, don't let anything I say put you off them, but I don't like them, and they just tend to look messy earlier as well. They tend to fade at the back here more quickly than others, and they really need to be deadheaded. So that's another type of dahlia. Also beside it we have a single dahlia. Now, a lot of the species dahlias are actually single dahlias, and you can get them like Dahlia australis, Dahlia murkii, Dahlia rudis. There are lots of them out there, imperialis as well. Not all hardy, mind you. I have to lift most of these dahlias myself. But this one, actually, that we're looking at, I grew from seed, and I grew from seed from one of the large cultivars, I think one in the Bishop series. And if you grow dahlias from seed, they don't come true to the parent if the parent was a double thing, but you can end up with something nice. And in fact, this one I did like a lot, and it's been in the garden for many years, so it's quite hardy, and that's just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So that's a single dahlia. We have a couple more single ones here at the back, again grown from seed of like a double parent, so definitely ones without any names. But yeah, I like the colour and I keep them, and they're hardy and I don't have to dig them up. I think I counted this year that I have 10 different types of dahlias that all need to be dug up and overwintered in the greenhouse, and that's a lot. That's a lot. Wouldn't you think I could just refine it a bit? But it's all like, oh no, I absolutely love this one and I absolutely love that one, and I don't want to risk it, so I end up with a vast number that need to be lifted and stored. And here we are walking along the top of the garden and just looking out for what looks good, and you can really get the autumn feel up here. Everything is so much more relaxed than it has been before. Like the sharp edges are beginning to mellow a bit, to fade, to be not quite so sharp, and there's a definite yellow and brown tinge. But what is looking good is this section down here through the second arch, and we're going to have a look down here and have a look at what's looking good down here at the moment. So first up, in terms of what's looking great, is this wonderful grass, Quinocloa rubra, or New Zealand tussock grass, and I can't recommend it enough. It looks absolutely fabulous, and this is one that looks fabulous all year. It doesn't have a season, it's like kind of all year is its season. Down here we have a cute little hosta, perhaps my favourite hosta, Francis Williams, and it is looking well. It finished flowering, I cut off the spikes, and the variegation is holding well. Not so much brown tips and stuff, so that's always good. And over here we have this cute little thing which has been through various name changes, so I'm not going to open my mouth, I'm just going to put the current name up on the screen. But it's a great thing for a kind of a stony area. It kind of scrambles about and it produces these lovely orange flowers, really, really pretty. Up from here, Tetrapanax rex is looking monstrous as usual, the devil, well, in a good way. And if we just walk down here, I want to give you a glimpse of my gargoyles through the spires of my eryngium. And over here we have the gargoyles, and here we have the eryngium, which has these seed heads. This is the one closest to me, but you can see all of the other ones over there, possibly out of focus. They're quite tall, and I look forward to them coming into flower. So we're at the top again. There's that Kinochlora rubra, and that's where we just came from, down there. And we're just walking along, noticing how the Viburnum marasii has taken on its autumn colour, or the first of its autumn colour. And it really is a nice one. I noticed this year as well, it has a smattering of little flowers, which is completely unseasonal. I mean, this is like most bushes, one that flowers in the spring, but yet it has a few flowers this year. And the Ligularia will need deadheading very soon if I don't want to end up with lots of seedlings in the border. They are just fading fast. And let's just walk through here and let's see if we can see any surprises. I'm going slow now. Okay, we didn't see it. We went too fast. Well, it's to do with my right here. So that's the place we just came from with the Viburnum, and I have done what I said I would do in the first of the autumn tasks, which was to connect these two borders together. So that border there and this border here, I removed a whole load of grass, and I'm putting the little inset picture there just when I had marked it out. And then I didn't dig it because this is really horrible to dig. I dug holes to put the geraniums in. That's Geranium Rosanne there, and that'll look great and scramble out all the way to the tarmac and look brilliant. There's another one over the other side. And I dug holes for that, and as I did, my teeth were chattering, and it reminded me of the good old bad old days when I was starting out with the garden, and how you'd absolutely wreck your bones and your teeth and everything just from the hard digging. Because when you put a spade into the ground, in the virgin ground in my garden, it's full of shale, and the spade goes down and it hits, and it just seems that you've hit bedrock, that you're trying to dig through a sheet of completely straight concrete. But actually what it is it's loads of these stones. Well, I took the bigger ones out, but like kind of all laid like this, because that's the way nature laid them. And imagine that. And so you hit it and it just seems like it's a complete bottom of stone. But actually when you start to chip around, then you can find the edge of that one, you can take that out, and then you chip around, you take the edge of that one out, and that one. And then you can dig down a little bit further until you come to the next kind of plateau of stones like that. So it's an arduous task, and that's why I didn't want to dig this, but just enough to plant the things. And this formium came from the long border that we just looked at down below. It had been completely obscured for many years. I was aware I had a really good plant there, and now I think it's going to look super here. It's a much better place, and it just fills in that border nicely, so I'm well pleased. Alright, so what to say? Well, this tree obviously is beginning to take on its autumn colour. This is the iron tree, and it kind of starts early, and I suppose September is early, but it does have very, very pretty colours, and it's a taste of what's to come. And here we have a very green and leafy walk all the way up to the stone table, which is at the very top. So I guess that's what we'll do next. In here we have some very shaded lilies. I think these are shade-loving lilies, but I didn't kind of mean this much. And they're gorgeous, aren't they? They're absolutely gorgeous, but they're shaded out and they're not staked, and they're kind of reaching for the light. See, lots of them there. I may actually move them somewhere else rather than under this pear tree. This is a pear tree, and it has pears this year. And I'm not going to talk about pears. Pears are a pain. Pears are delicious when they're ripe, if you can ever get them to be ripe. But yeah. Okay, so walking on up, and on this side I will point out, oh yes, I must point out this bush here. See that white one with all these scented flowers? Really quite a pretty thing. And I'm putting the name up on the screen, and I'm just sniffing now because it really is beautifully scented. And this is one I grew from seed a couple of years back, but it's supposed to be kind of borderline hardy, but it has done well. It's quite a sheltered position it's in here, so I think I planted it well, so it's doing well. Yeah, pleased with that. And just beside it we have Phyllotaca, and this is the variegated one, and it is now in flower. And you can see here that the flowers on the variegated one, the flower heads are so much smaller than on the non-variegated one. Look up here. And this is the biggest of the ones here. And if you compare that to these ones here, this is the non-variegated one. And this has gone to berry now at this stage, these black berries, which are highly poisonous, but won't kill the birds because the birds poop them out. And yeah, so this one, the non-variegated one, is one to grow for the flowers and the berries, but the variegated one, grow it for the leaves. And when I say grow it for the leaves, you can see exactly what I mean here. So the one on the left looks like shit warmed up, and I've already removed a whole load of the lower leaves that were brown, completely brown, took them off. It continues to make the brown leaves, whereas I've done practically nothing to the variegated one. However, this could be that it flowers late, so perhaps when it starts flowering the foliage goes to pot. However, you know, these flowers are turning to berry now and still the foliage is intact, so for good foliage definitely go for the variegated one. The hydrangeas, of course, the paniculata ones, continue to prove their worth in the garden, and they are just so gorgeous. Now over here the Annapolis is still looking good. I don't have a species name for that, and the dahlias are just coming into flower. The hydrangea in the background, the blue hydrangeas, the macrophylla ones, are kind of past their best by now, and you can see that they acquire these kind of dusky hues. Some people say they look a bit dirty, but some people see, I don't know, antique beauty in them. And I have these flanked in front by that same dahlia we saw down below, the War of the Roses, which is perfectly hardy for me here at Douentza. Simicifuga is now in flower, or Actia as it's now called, and it has these lovely spires of white or creamy flowers that really look quite gorgeous. Now a lot of these come with purple foliage, dark foliage if you buy certain cultivars, but I grew these from seed and have ended up with green foliage, which isn't the best. And you can see the variability here. This one behind, also seed grown, has a darker foliage than the one in front. And I guess that's how the cultivar came about. One day one plant threw up a baby that just had dark foliage, and that's where all of the dark purple cultivars have been propagated from. Down here we have one of my favourite grasses, and this is great for a shady corner because it's yellow and it really brightens it up. Now the only fault is that it does take a few years to get going, and yeah, and it does need shade, so there's no planting it out in sunshine and seeing if it will make do. Now this is a decent sized clump, but I kind of want this about 3 times bigger. So yeah, we'll see. We'll give it time. Begonia Sutherlandii in front. Yeah, this is a tender begonia in a pot that will go into the greenhouse. And likewise for the tree ferns that we see behind. The big one here has done really quite well in the end, and it's sending up new fronds as we speak. It just seemed a slower starter than the Dixonia, but it's doing good now. And over we go to the greenhouse area, where it is looking quite mellow and quite yellow at the moment. At the back here, Eupatorium or Joe Pieweed, the pink tall one, is in full flower. And I've coupled it here with yellow. What was I thinking? It does have nice red stems, but I can't say much for the foliage. We have a few Agapanthus in flower. We have the marigolds on their last legs. And over here we have the Ligularia Osiris, which is still proving valuable. The variegated daylily, Hemerocallis, which always looks great. And then beside it we have a leucanthemum that I cut back, and it is going to flower again. You see those buds there? So I guess the trick with the leucanthemum is don't cut them back too quickly or too early, because then you miss where the flowers are going to form. But this one is going to give me a second flush, all at a lower level than the original one. The original one was quite tall, but that's good and that's valuable and that's worthy at this time of year, and we definitely won't throw it out of bed in a storm for that. Okay, we have a salvia here, gorgeous one, leucantha, and it is furry and soft and tactile and tender and grows in a pot and will need to be brought indoors very soon. And then just across from me here are the hydrangeas, the paniculata hydrangeas, looking fantastic. This one is called Cusu, it's a hydrangea paniculata, and this one is called, I can't remember, Phantom maybe. Really big flower heads, look at that. I think the other one, Vinifres, is actually my favourite, but this is pretty good. Look at it. Look at these enormous flower heads. And mostly, like, it holds itself upright. We have a stem down here at the front, but that seems to be all. And just to the right of it, we have a macrophylla hydrangea, a white one, but macrophylla none the same. And nonetheless, and this is going over in the same way as we saw the blue ones do. So it's getting this kind of antique dusky pink effect, which some find quite beautiful. Roscoeas down below looking quite well, and over here. And just a little while ago I had the most amazing display of Hedychium gingers here. It's just gone over now. You can see how they've gone over. This one is looking the best still, but yeah, but it's already started to fade at the base. Well, that's a shame, but I can't catch everything in these garden tours. And just before we leave this section of the garden, I thought I would just take you down and we'll have a look at the cyclamen, which are the little white plants at the base of this cornice tree. And if we needed any more of a sign that autumn is in the air, then we would find it here with this cyclamen. It's very much an autumn plant. There are spring ones too, but this one is autumn. And we're on the last lap now, just over here on the other side of the garden, where the succulents, the tender succulents, are looking good. Now I have already moved a couple of them inside because they were too precious to risk, but others are still out, like the euphorbia, and this is the one that I propagated at the beginning of the year that came to me with no roots, and it really is looking well. I think I might move that into the greenhouse for the moment, but it does have to come into the house for the winter. And here we are looking at the view that I see out of the patio windows here in the house. And we have Japanese anemones, super plant for this time of year for a shady spot. This is a particularly tall one whose name I don't have, I'm afraid. And crinums, looking fabulous at the moment. And if you keep deadheading them, they keep on giving, especially when you get a big clump like this. So these spikes here have already done a lot. We have 3 flowers in good use, and perhaps one, or there's a flower coming there, 2 flowers left to come. Likewise with this one here, 2 left to come. But actually I have a lot of really new spikes over here, so the display will keep on going for a good while. And behind them we have Persicaria affinis, an amazing plant for this time of year. And these open pale pink, I think at some stage in the summer, June, July maybe. They fade to this kind of dark red, and then eventually they end up brown. But they make a fabulous statement when mass planted, and a great plant for a very stony area, which is what we have here in the bank. And I noticed just a few flowers left on my summer flowering magnolia, the grandiflora one. And there's one in here hiding. Hiding! Come out, come out. There it is. And there's one over there as well. So yeah, it's been a good summer. And just a little pan around this section of the garden, where there we have Hydrangea macrophylla doing its kind of autumn thing. We have bananas over here, which need to be dug up and brought into the greenhouse in November, but they're really picking up now. It's kind of a too late the hero, but yeah, but they do look good, so we'll take that. And over here at the front of the border we have some of the new Roscoeas that I bought when I was in England at the Tatton Park show, and they look very spindly at the moment because they've just been planted out and they're small new plants. But let's have a close up of the flowers. And this one is the Nepal's Sunset strain. Purple flowers, very dark foliage and red stems. Nice. This here is my favourite of the new ones I bought anyway, Harvington Imperial, and it's very red with streaks of purple, and that is one thing we'll say about Roscoeas, the flowers do tend to be purple, so it's nice when you get something a bit different. And this one just has the name of Hybrid Clone A. It's a papyrifera as well, of course, like the other ones are. Tiny bit disappointed with this now because the flower isn't anything special. It's purple, and okay, the stem does have red on it, although the leaves are green, but yeah, we'll see how it develops. Some of these Sarracenia are really looking well at the moment, if a bit floppy. And finally, I guess we'll end up in this corner here, where we have Schefflera rhododendrofolia, down a few years, but it's put on a lot of growth this year, so I look forward to it doing great things. And also, well, not also, here we have my Spermania. Now, hang on. So this big plant here is Dahlia imperialis, which I've left in the ground for several years. I had one in a pot in the greenhouse for a long time and it just became too much trouble, so I got rid of it. But this one in the ground has done okay. We have Spermania beside it, and it's doing well in the ground. It's going to get dug up and brought in winter. I don't want to risk losing this, and I'm just going to check for flowers, because those of you who subscribe to Potted Jewels channel will have seen that Ficus is currently in flower, and a magnificent specimen it is too, but I don't have any sign of flowers on mine at all, although it has done so much better since I put it in the ground. Done really, really well. And then I guess we'll finish with some dahlias, because it's been a kind of a dahlia tour this time around. Those ones aren't open, we can't see what they look like, but this one here we certainly can. And this one is called Colour Spectacle, and it's been in the ground for years and years, and it flowers at this time, so yeah, anyway. It survived in the garden for me over winter, and yeah, I don't like it. It looks like a kind of cartoon dahlia, like something a kid would dream of. I think it may be a semi-cactus one, although I'm not altogether sure, just from the presentation of the petals. And I normally adore orange, but this is just, I don't know, it's too blatant, it's too, I don't know, don't like it. I think my tastes have changed over the years, because I certainly liked it when I bought it and put it down originally. I'm not in any danger of digging it up just yet, because a dahlia that manages to survive outdoors without lifting is certainly something worth having until I find something better to put in the space. But yeah, what do you think? Do you like it? And that brings us to the end of this video, which was a walk around my garden on this lovely sunny Sunday morning in September. A lot of S's in there, but anyway, I hope you are inspired to go out and enjoy your garden, to check out the autumn colour, and to enjoy the last of the summer colour that's out there for us all to take advantage of. Thanks very much for watching, and if you aren't already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe and check back for lots more gardening and plant fun. Bye for now, and happy autumn.